Well, it's interesting timing that you're asking the question, or that you're bringing up Peregian Originals, because it seems to surface and resurface. It's been a few years now since it finished with the COVID extravaganza. So since then, we haven't had Peregian Originals. But long before then, I had already passed it on for many years, to others who did a fine job carrying the flag, keeping the torch burning. And but since then, it keeps coming back. I guess it's still strong in many people's memories, including ours.
Yeah, of course.
So recently, Penny from Yellow, the social media online publication for the arts and the entertainment on the Sunshine Coast, she recently did a piece. Did you get a chance to read that piece in Yellow? I'll send it to you.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
And she did a great job. But so I think it's good timing in a way you asked this, because it seems like it has resurfaced in the community recently. So you're on the pulse.
I don't know if you realize what you did. I mean, I'm not sure if you I mean, it's like so many people are like, I know you, Peregian or whatever. It's like such a connection. It was a beautiful community. So when did it start? How did it start?
Yeah, coming back to your question, I relocated to the Sunshine Coast. I was sort of fairly freshly married at the time, and I came from Nimbin, New South Wales.
That's before you wrote your book?
Yes, it was, in fact. So this was 99, 2000.
Okay.
First arrived on the Sunshine Coast to live here. Interestingly, the very first week that I arrived on the Sunshine Coast, we just arrived, and we found a place to live, a rental at close to the Peregian shops, Cormorant Crescent. I don't know if you know the street there. And, just a quick stone's throw from the Peregian shops. And but before I tell you that story of arriving in the Peregian Square and spotting that stage, this unused massive wooden stage, the local press that week, the front page of the Noosa News had an article called "The Death of the Noosa Music Scene." So imagine I've just relocated, I've just changed states, and you're all excited about all the musical possibilities, and you open up your local rag, and the front page story is the death of the local Noosa music scene. So, looks like we could have done better with our timing to arrive in this place, But the next thought that I had was, where there's death, there's a potential for rebirth, and took a little walk into my new town and my new little local shops, and there was this massive wooden stage at the Peregian Square. Did you arrive at the event in those very early years before it relocated behind the surf club?
Well, I arrived to the Sunny Coast 2008.
I think by then
probably found you around 2009. There was no music, anything at the time when I arrived. It was really hard to find anything. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know exactly.
So you would have arrived. The first Peregian would have been out near out along.
It's where it was. I mean, I don't know if it moved towards the end.
Well, not toward the end. No, just the first few years were actually in the square with the shops. There was a
I heard about that, but I never made it there.
So
this is where you started.
That's where it started, and I'd met a local singer-songwriter who'd also recently relocated to the area. That was Paul Fogarty.
Yeah.
And we got together and we had a little meeting down there at Baked Poetry Cafe.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this massive wooden stage at the inside the square there, and there was a beautiful area to have a concert, and nothing was happening. And I asked all the shopkeepers and the locals, and they said, "Oh no, council won't let you use that. The box to the power is locked up." And I thought, "Well, what's going on?" And I said, "What if we just plugged in?" They said, "You can't plug in." But so the very first Peregian Originals concert was Paul Fogarty and I on this massive stage, playing our original songs for 3 or 4 kids on bikes, drinking soda pop and enjoying ice creams. And we plugged in by running a cable through the trees and across into one of the shops. It was a shop called Heaven. So we joked that we were plugging into heaven, you know. That was the very first Peregian Originals concert, probably 2000, 2001, 2000. And we finished the first song at the very first Peregian Originals event, and we were nervous. You imagine, you were saying a moment ago when you at your first podcast.
Yeah, that's right. Like nervous, something new.
We were nervous. We finished the very first song at our very first trial event, and there was 3 or 4 kids out there on bikes, and these kids looked at each other, and one of them went, and then the other one. That was the first Peregian Originals concert, you know. Right. And then we came back 2 weeks later and did it again, and there was, 10, 15 people in the park, and we did it. Maybe it's like your construction of this beautiful home you've created, one step at a time, and it just grows and grows and grows. And you've wound up with a beautiful organic creation, which I have to compliment. Is so in harmony. I was complimenting your canopy of roofing here. It emulates the surrounding forest, and that's an organic process that you engaged in. And I think Peregian Originals was also an organic community process that just found itself by just chipping away and just hanging in there through the years.
Yeah, I guess it was so nice to get a community together that we in Nambour they had one. They started one, and also Goroy.
Yeah, that's right. It spread out for a while. Yeah.
But yeah, it was like external attacks all the time. COVID or whatever. Towards the end, that killed it. But how did you feel before COVID and you started experiencing attacks into that beautiful project?
Well, it was actually a really small group of neighbors, mostly on Pelican Street.
You don't mind talking about that?
Oh no!
Politics and stuff.
I love it all. The longer you live in this life, the more you just love it all. Because every single thing that's happened brought me right here behind this microphone speaking to you. And I love this idea that if you were to change one thing in your past, the whole show collapses. You see what I mean? I wouldn't be here right now with you in this beautiful forest, this open air home you've created, reconnecting with someone I haven't seen for years. We actually have to do a podcast to see each other, let's face it.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
But we wouldn't be here if I changed one thing.
True. You always see the positive or the silver lining or whatever. Yeah.
Well, think about it. It's true. I believe this.
Yeah, but again, that's not how. I would expect that something that is organic and it's bringing people together and it brings happiness together, and you see some external force fighting it. I'm sure it drew some outrage or something, because it's just not normal.
It's taxing and it's challenging, and it's difficult to comprehend sometimes when you've created something that really was from a community heart, and it came from a creative passion, and I think that was one of the special things about that event. And I think as much as it baffled the naysayers and council and business owners, as much as the motives and the energies of that event baffled those people, I believe that the people who came to Peregian Originals events, and certainly the musicians and everyone involved with it who experienced it, they realized this is not commercially driven. This is not about money. It really wasn't. And
so therefore must be bad.
Yes, yes, perhaps.
For
but
those.
Look, it was frustrating. This. It turns out there was 11 people behind. That was a group of 11 neighbors. We finally got the official number from council. So it was 11 people who sort of found each other and were trying to stop the event. But it got to the point of absolute ridiculousness where we were forced to have the Environmental Protection Agency come out and do tests, over a 4-month period at Peregian Originals concerts to test the volume, because the argument was that we were in violation of decibel levels and noise pollution, as they refer to
it's big here.
our beloved music. Isn't it strange that they to equate music with as noise pollution?
Yeah.
It's very strange.
But it's something I notice with anything that is, what is convenient to want to stop. They turn anything that makes sense into something that doesn't make sense. I mean, I remember towards the end, about 1,500 people showed up. And then I'm not sure, you were at the council meeting. I went there as well. And they said, oh, they outgrew their space. And those people showed up to say, hey, no, we want this. But they turned, oh, you grew out of your space. So it's like twisting things for whatever benefit they want to.
That's right. Yeah, but the funny thing was when we got the results, like, for example, with that 4 months testing by the EPA, I talked to the EPA officer and I said, how are we doing at the end of it?
I like the music.
he sort of had, he sort of hadn't given away a lot. And then he said, look, I'll be honest with you. He said, you could virtually, legally, according to Queensland EPA regulations, he said you could almost double your volume and still be in.
Wow.
Still be legal within the legal decibel limit in terms of the effect on the surrounding neighborhoods. And I said, oh my God, this is really what's happening. And yet we're on the verge of losing this precious community event. So
I know, it's so hurtful.
Amazing.
The attacks. I mean, the other thing that blew my mind is that Fruit Tree Street in Buttram.
Oh.
Where the community, they grew up trees, fruit trees, and there were like fruit trees on the street. And they tried to say something about insurance, whatever. I mean, if I was in the council, I would support them, sponsor them, and buy the insurance if that's what it was. But it's brought community together, and they were devastated. One day they just woke up in the morning, early in the morning, they cut the trees, all of them, cleaned it up. You didn't hear about that?
I sort of missed this one. I think is it the council did that? Or?
Yeah. I was it was well-known news all around. But it's just strange how we don't nurture humanity, which is I see you are very, seeing always the positive and looking at what is meant to be is like what you hold dearly to you, because that's how things end up working out, and it's a beautiful thing to see. But yeah,
well, it's good to. I think it's good to see as much as we can see, and so I appreciate that we don't only see the rose-colored glasses, so to speak, but then you're right. Then we have to focus our time and energy and our choices on the well-lit path, I think that's the way to go. Well, not meaning the well-lit path, but point ourselves toward the light we want to reach. But I like to see as much as I can see in terms of extending my vision. So I'm not afraid to look at these dark realities and
I agree with you.
Some people, they want to live in this
bubble.
A little bubble, and I don't think that's the way forward.
Yeah, I mean, if we have, like, with all this going on, I mean, look, man, I mean, I went through childhood, learn. I went through whatever, and it's like, live, and then you get to a certain age, it's like, when can you, just talk your experience with that, the humbleness that everybody's teaching you, because that's how I was. I used to be very gullible, simple guy, didn't know much. Just I'm here to learn. I'm willing to learn. But at some point, it's like, no, you gotta say the spade is a spade. You can't live with virtue signaling and think this is right. Like the people who are not calling genocide, who are calling a genocide not a genocide. It's like, where would you be around Hitler's time? It's like, which one are you going to be? Just cheerleading the group thing, and I tell you, I've learned that groups sort of just gets you to not think for yourself as much, because there are so many like guidelines or derailing or whatever that they do to have that main narrative that everybody believes in. But I was very touched. It sort of clicked with me with that thing you wrote on Facebook. Something about you want to stop healing, you want to start living.
Oh yes, we were so focused on healing, we forgot about living.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's it. Well, as you speak,
there is a lot to that.
Well,
and that's why I reacted, and I thought, like, this is, it touched something in me. So I wonder if you felt the same.
Well, the thing is, just as you were speaking, there's a lot in. No, I'm good here. As you were speaking, there's a lot in just about everything you were referring to. The first thing you referred to before we talk about that post I put up that incurred a bit of a response. You were talking about the phases of life, and I think you referred to there was a time in your life where you were just listening and taking on and being. I think that's that's crucial. Too often there's an arrogance of youth. I know better, but no, I think you're required to listen and learn for those early phases of life. But you get to a point, if you've lived well and learned from the lessons you've been granted to experience, there's a point where you begin to know yourself, and that's a beautiful place to begin this whole new phase of life where you may have something to offer, to say. And I think so. I appreciate you calling a spade, as you said, but you have to know what a spade is, and I think that you reach a time in your life where you're like, I think I know myself, and I know a little something about life. I've lived some. Not saying I'm a spokesperson or any fountain of wisdom or anything like that.
I mean, you have a lot of people experience. You've done projects. You're living your dream, what you see, and I think we all should live our lives. And I'm sure you have a lot of experience to share in that regard.
And I even mean, it's just you get to a point in life where I think it's okay to. I was agreeing with you, where it's like, I'm ready to speak. I'm ready to stand for something, and to know what I'm standing for. Not as you say, because the group.
That's right.
Is indicating I should be standing for it, but it's come out of me to stand for it. That's beautiful. Because I agree with you. When I was 20 years old, or approximately 20 years old, living in California, it came to me because I had a university professor who said, "There's no conscience in a mob." There's no conscience in a mob.
Okay.
And then that led me to one day. It just came out of me. I said, I was talking with some friends one night on a Friday night, and I looked at them and I said, never overestimate the masses. Never underestimate the individual. So I guess I haven't even got up to the post yet, because you said so much. I had to respond to the phases of life, and I had to respond to what you said about not being so impressed with groupthink.
Yeah.
And looking at your own path, look where you are now. This is not a groupthink creation where you live here. This is an alternative. Alternative to what? Alternative to mainstream. Alternative to the masses, to the big flood of groupthink civilization. You've chosen something quite special out here, and so I think that illustrates your words in saying that you're not drawn to groupthink.
No, not at all. Not at all. I think people got to be very careful. I mean, going from Egypt to the States, and mind you, while I was in Egypt, like a year and a half or 2 years before I left Egypt, I got introduced to this meditation, which is not a Middle Eastern thing at all either. This religion or this religion, and that's it, and it's mostly Muslim. So I learned a lot about, the mind, the ego, and all of that. And then going to the States, I learned very quickly that I needed to deprogram myself, that all this cultural filters are just been put on me without me really understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through a fair period of time. It's really taking layers after layers, and basically, if anything doesn't make sense to me, I had to question it. So that's where it comes from. Yeah,
It's an amazing path, that you've led, and so it's not only duration of time spent in this incarnation that allows you to say, hey, I have something to say now. It's not just the passing of time and years, but you look at your own trajectory. It's incredible. Egypt, Muslim education and upbringing.
in Coptic, I was a minority there, indigenous. I was actually taught by a friend of mine who's an attorney, human rights attorney. He's also Coptic. Coptic means Egyptian Orthodox.
I see.
So it's a very old church. And when Islam was being propagated, then you have the mix of Arab, because it comes from Arabia's, with the rest.
Mm-hmm.
So it became majority there, Arabs and Muslim ruled. But I come from a minority that's indigenous, and some people say there is discrimination. I've seen it at times, but yeah. So I'm not a mainstream Egyptian at all.
No, and within that faction, that indigenous faction, was Islam still the spirituality that you were raised with?
No. For us, Islam is like the occupier.
Aha.
Right? I mean, it's Arabs took over
and
forced the Arabic language. We used to speak Coptic.
So what was the spirituality, the active spirituality of?
It'd be like Greek Orthodox, like Russian Orthodox.
Gotcha.
But this is Coptic Orthodox, so it's Egyptian old. When it's actually the services are in Coptic language. So
wow.
you go to those churches and it's Latin.
Incredible.
This is
incredible.
Yeah.
What a combination. That's amazing. Very cool. Yeah, I can understand how that happened. Yeah, because it's during what they call the Dark Ages. I think a lot of the Europeans came down into the Middle East.
I think it's
with a lot of the philosophies, because it was the Middle Easterners who carried on Aristotle and all that, because Europe dropped the ball with all that during the Dark Ages. So it wasn't until later that the European scholars.
Are you saying AD or B?
AD, yeah, AD. Yeah. Oh yeah.
AD.
Into the what they call the Dark Ages, the Dark Middle Ages,
right,
when Europe lost its all the great work that the Greeks had done and everything, and it was the Middle East that carried on the high civilizations of the Middle East that carried on all that stuff. So Europe had to rediscover itself through the Middle East.
So Islam was propagated in the 700 after Christ, or 80. Yeah.
But that's fascinating to me. So then, just when you said, okay, then I went to the U.S.A. and here you are, we're speaking in Australia. So your internationalism is incredible. But not only that, the
organization I worked in was also international organization.
And then your own multiculturalism, and then being a minority in your own culture, and then immigrating. So what a journey, hey?
But it's a journey. But a lot of it is like you stand back. I mean, I'm being, I always had like sort of like I respected the environment I'm being put in. So I'm not the kind of person who would be like belligerent or acting weird in an environment I'm not used to, unless it's really close friends and we're fine with each other. That can I say whatever. But that respect, I guess. You can see it going from one culture to another culture. You're drawn back. You're trying to learn how to live, how to whatever, how you deal with people, talk with people. Then move here. And I had concepts about Australia, which is,
same.
So
they were all, most of them were wrong.
And it's like, what is going on? But at some point you got to say, it's all cultures. We're all the same. It's maybe it's like certain sayings. It means something to somebody from this culture different than this person. You may trying to express something. This person from this culture will hear it a different way than this culture. But yeah.
But you've you pose questions. I don't think you come in as the belligerent know-it-all ever, and you probably never have. I don't see that in your.
Yeah.
I still see and hear your voice as a strong one, because you have the courage to speak the truths that you've learned to be true, and I see that, and you pose questions. So that's, I think, admirable for someone who's an immigrant to another, because often conformity is the way that immigrants
That's right.
take. You meet
That's
this
right.
all the time. People come and they go, okay, my best way to rise is to conform.
Go back to where you came from.
You don't, America, love it or leave it,
That's right.
Or as the bumper sticker, one of the bumper stickers I grew up with in California was, welcome to California, now go home. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think I think it's really it speaks to your sustenance and endurance and your.
Well, I mean, since I was very little, I mean, I was a bit, we all have. It's not like I was religious. I was going to church all the time, but it's more of the prayer and whatever. I really connected with Christ and all of that. But I think in general, I always felt like there is more of a, I see there is a relationship. It's not about, I mean, I've learned later on, it's not about me. Like, I'm not the painting, but I'm like a brushstroke in a big painting that I learned with time. But as far as, it's a basic question. Who are you serving? Mm-hmm. And a person who had meditation or practice meditation, whatever, we all know we all have egos. We all have mind. Mm-hmm. We all have our desires. Who are you serving? So that basically can make you change how you look at things, how you do them. Am I doing this to promote me? I mean, I can understand somebody promoting something because they need the living or whatever, but look at me, or whatever it is that can be a little bit too, ego-centric and feeding into that. That never looked pretty to me. It's never been a good form. And I'm more and more, I get, shy from it. I mean, I look at Facebook and I love a lot of people, and they putting pictures, and it's like, it's each to their own, and whatever we do, whatever makes us happy. But to me, it's serving humanity, serving that universe, and it is about being the best of who you are or who you can be as you. You're born as a male. Do what you're supposed to do. Be, versus brings us to the question that we completely deviated from. Versus
we knew we'd do that.
I know. Yeah, I know. And it dawned on me. It just became like such a light bulb. I went out with this girl a while back. It was in Australia, and she had a scripture. She meditates, and she like full on. And I thought that was beautiful. I love people's sincerity and focusing. And of course, it's about healing. You got to do certain things to make you complete, to heal this or whatever. But then when it became like over 90%, you focused on healing. It's like the spotlight shouldn't be on you. You should look what you see. Do when you see whatever way to practice humanity, that is service. So it's more of a service kind of I see it. You need to be in a service mode. So it's not really, I mean, yeah, if you have something you need to deal with, fair enough, deal with it. But life is not about healing. Like, enough healing. I want to live.
If you're living well, the healing happens naturally. It really does. And
when you get out of that cycle.
Yeah,
yes.
But if the people that are, at least, I don't know about you, but at least in my experience, the people who are putting so much energy into this, it's almost like they keep picking the scab. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not really healing here. Anyway, yeah, it's a funny one. I think that we're very much in what we might call a post-mythological era. Remember way back when Nietzsche, you brought up, did you bring up Nietzsche, or is that
No,
mine?
I didn't.
Oh, I mean, that's
cite him, but
just came up in my mind.
yeah,
But, Nietzsche had that famous line, God is dead. And I know what he meant. But, we're in a post-mythological era now where even though there's more than ever people are turning to the monotheistic traditions, Christianity and Islam, boom, on the rise, Islam especially. But it's not a match anymore for our times. No, I don't have anything against anyone who finds.
What do you mean match? Like a competition?
Well, no, it's not a match for. I think that these old texts. I think there's real spiritual wealth there, but I think these literal fundamentalist interpretations of these old mythologies for other societies are not. They're not appropriate for, and they're not meeting the needs of today. In my mind, the whole cosmology's off. Well, for example, like with the Bible, you look at the picture of the world and the universe compared to the scientific discoveries of today. We know it's vaster, of much more vast and magnificent cosmology presented by scientists today than in the Bible. This little three-tiered cake thing, of the heaven and earth and hell. And
well, I don't know if any of it should be taken literal.
Well, you're right. It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
But I think that the picture of the universe given by any of these religions, it needs to match the day and the time and the society. I just feel like it's all out of whack. And I think people are grasping because they're not being met fully by the church. It's not giving them the answers to meet the challenges that we face in today's society. And so the people whose needs aren't met by the old religions and the old mythologies, they're turning to this world of healing. That's how I see it. And then enter the snake oil salespeople and the marketing, the mystic East, I like to say. These people who come in with these Eastern traditions, and now I'm a self-declared healer. I'm a self-declared meditation master. I'm a master. I'm a this master, that master, and I have a weekend course, and it costs this much. And
that's right.
And I think that's and many people are turning to these things, and I don't disparage them if they're getting rewards. John Lennon, whatever gets you through the night, it's all right. If people are finding what's working for them, beautiful. Yeah. But I see a lot of people who I don't think are finding the real stuff, the real spiritual food. In these pursuits, and I think that's probably what we're commenting toward.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I see what you mean by the healing.
But there's like
I see it all, like all the different, like I look at my life and I was really into Christianity, and then I got into meditation that made me feel like, oh, there's this story, it's in a different way, this is equal to Jesus, or this is equals to the God, and you work out or whatever. But through time and through whatever phases you go through, you end up at a point where, it all gives you a certain insight, each one, and it doesn't necessarily be like you. It's there if you need it. Go ahead. If it's not really helping you, or if you're not getting, or once you mature in it. Or at least at some point, you got to realize it's, your relationship is always individual. It's not a group thing. It's not like like a lot of Christians. They're Christians. They tell they're Christians to do whatever, but they interpret Christianity to, that's what it's right. That's what and everybody have their own interpretation.
I love what you said. That these things are not meant to be read literally, factually, historically. This is the real killer, I think, literalism. Because if the way, what helped me, people ask me, well, what are you? What do you have a spirituality? I say, absolutely, I do. Well, what is it? And I say, the best thing I can come up with is I'm a comparativist.
Comparativist.
You know, and
Everything is relative.
and now that doesn't mean that I'm sitting at a distance. It means that I'm going the best I can inside these teachings, these texts, these illuminations, and I'm trying to get as close as I can to that fire and to warm myself in all these different traditions. What a vast and rich array of traditions on planet Earth throughout human history we have to draw on. To me, it's a real blessing that I can pick up the Bhagavad Gita, I can pick up the Quran, I can pick up the Bible, I can read Native American mythologies. What a blessing, what a privileged position. So I look for the metaphoric truths.
I see.
I don't read literal. I mean, we know that there was no flood. I'm sorry to say that to fundamentalists.
I have no idea.
Well,
I wasn't there.
I wasn't there, but according to, if you trust science at all, I mean, it's easy to.
I don't know. They definitely were off with the COVID.
Well, was that science though, or was that commerce? Was that control? I mean,
yeah, true.
But
so you don't know about the other stuff as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, it gets to that point. Then,
I mean, I think the reality.
Then you're in flat Earth, though. You know,
it's really. I think. I mean, I'm not really into being religious, but there are some words that are hard to say without using sort of like equivalent. I mean, sometimes I say the universe or whatever. That experience day to day, I enjoy it here a lot of time, and I'm fulfilled. I'm content. It's not like I need to chase or do whatever, but it's the issue of, you think any of this, you're going to figure out the truth, or you're going to figure out the whatever. You go this path, or you go to this path, or you go. It's in you. So it doesn't matter if it doesn't give you what it is, or it's probably being diverse and hear a lot of different things. You're going to find sort of synchronicity or harmony between it all. You know, you see how a lot of them are parallels or similar. And then
100%.
And then in the end, you know, it's common sense. Like recently, again.
But that requires an openness, even what you've said.
Absolutely.
That's an openness from one who's not only theoretically been open to other cultures or other races or other spiritual systems, but that those words that you've shared to me come from someone who has swam in the waters of these different experiences. Do you see what I mean? And
well, if you have a new waters and you say, man, I do voodoo with that water, I do blah, blah, blah. It's like, maybe you do. I mean, it's not like I'm not going to say you're not. And I think there is a amazing, I love this comedian, he's Egyptian, Bassem Youssef, with this same spelling as my name, Youssef. And he was saying how, he talked about humbleness or modesty internally. And it was so beautiful because people were asking him, how was he dealing with being so famous celebrity? And then, you know, whatever, he was talking about that. Yeah, well, he's been through that in Egypt until he had to run away, you know, went up, went down, whatever. But he learned with time is, you know, you got, I don't remember his answer. You should listen to him. But it was very, it was one thing he said about dealing with all this. It's not what other people do. You know, because he was being asked, I don't remember what was the question, but he said it so nicely. He was saying, it's people can say this, that, and the other, but which is all well and fine, except when you're looking at other people and you say, well, they should do this and that and the other. You know what I mean? Like being known that you should do this, that, and the other. Yeah, fair enough. You know, I'm a holy man. No, I'm not a holy man, or whatever. We know what it's about. And the problem is we don't take it as a personal thing. We just point at other people saying, they're not doing this, that, and the other. You follow?
I think so.
It just pulls, it makes, I hate the word spirituality because it's like a trend. It makes that stuff sort of looking at each other and you know, versus it's not about anybody. I mean, to me, my relationship with the universe or creator, whatever it is, it's of nobody's business. Nobody will have a clue. Nobody will understand. It's my own personal thing.
Sure. I guess you're talking about self-responsibility, but also respect for others.
People, they do whatever they want, and they're trying. I mean, I see people, they're doing the best they can with the knowledge they had. If you were not formulated enough, and get exposed, you're going to have a perspective that's, it's got maybe bigger, wider blind spots than somebody who's seen a lot and talked a lot. Then you have less blind spots because you still have blind spots. It's all about perspectives.
But you're right. It's all right here, and I think this is the way forward for me. Is not to be pointing fingers and criticizing others, but to it's like many of the great writers or great spiritual speakers through the ages have I'm trying to think, there was an old Gandhi quote, turn the spotlight inward. I think Gandhi said. Voltaire, the great writer Voltaire, in his little book Candide, the very end of it, this little character's gone through all these horrific life adventures, and he's seen the horror and the beauty and the terror of life, and gets to the end. What's the conclusion going to be? And he says, I think I'll just stay home and tend my garden. Well, there it is, What do you do each day, Yusuf? Tend the garden, deal with the snakes, and and I think this is it for me. I heard J.K. Krishnamurti say, he described it as house cleaning. Clean the house. Don't worry. If you clean as without, so within. If we address within, without is already taken care of.
That's right.
It really is, and it's a wonderful thing because we don't have to go out there. We can go out there. I love traveling. I love adventures, and I love all that stuff. But I know that my primary job is right here, always, and that's my task. I got plenty of work to do there. I can assure you. I'm highly imperfect and flawed.
We all work in progress.
So it's a great thing because there's no shortage of work to do. And if one begins to feel he's reached a certain stage, or a certain rung of the ladder, or I'm elevated now. I like to say you're only as good as your last moment, or as a performer, you're only as good as your last performance. So
True.
there's no place for ego. There really isn't. There's no place for it. So I like what you said, how you, even at an early age, you didn't go for the ego game. You said.
No, I've never been.
And it's a dead end.
It's not pretty either.
Exactly. We like pretty. We like pretty, don't we?
It's not a good form.
I agree. Yeah.
So with you, where you are now, as far as state of mind, state of being, and what you're doing on the road, it's like, what are you up to? What are you pursuing? What are you working on?
I've spent the last, I guess, 20 years, you'd say, as a parent, and that was absolutely life transforming for me. From the very moment of
Simone? Her name?
No, my firstborn is Sienna.
Sienna.
She's
Sienna.
19,
Yeah.
and my second daughter is Alani, and she's 16.
All right.
So we've traveled well together,
Nice.
and that was a huge change for me. So before that, I had a lot more concerns for me, if you see what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
But what being a parent did for me was well, first of all, it introduced me to a love greater than any I'd ever experienced. So that was transformative from the start, and that has sustained for all this time and continues to grow. So having the privilege of giving oneself to something fully, to really loving fully, that's a beautiful experience, and I think it's one of the main reasons we're here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been such a joy.
You mean that we're here as in
to love something
in existence, to have kids, and
well, not necessarily to have kids, but to give ourselves to something, to love something fully, to offer what we can through our love. It's a beautiful story of the spiritual guru Ramakrishna in 19th century in India, where this woman comes to him and she says, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't believe in any of it. And he's like, okay, Ramakrishna, okay. You don't believe, she's like, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in your spirituality. I don't believe in the Christian thing. And I'm not buying it. It just doesn't, not feeling it, you know. And Ramakrishna looks at this woman and he says, is there anything in this world that you love? And she said, yeah, there's one thing. And he says, what's that? And she says, my little baby nephew. And Ramakrishna looked at her and he said, go to God through your love and service to your beautiful baby nephew.
Mm-hmm.
Dismissed. And I think this is the idea, you know. So for me to be able to love those two little girls fully that's been the focus for the last 20 years. But the reason I brought that up was just because you asked me where am I at now. Well, things are beginning to change. Doesn't mean that I'll love them any less, but we have to let go as parents, right?
Yeah.
So what do you do when you let go? And I think they call it empty nest syndrome, right?
Yeah.
What do we do then? So it's an interesting question.
I've been there for a while.
You know the one, huh? And look what you're doing. You're doing podcast and sipping tea with old friends that you haven't caught up with for years. So what am I doing now? Well, I think that this phase is beginning to offer me more expansive horizons, because that focus has just been everything for me. It really has, in terms of career. Like, I need to provide for these girls.
Yeah.
Okay. Does this require creative, artistic compromise? Yes, it does. Why? Because it's expensive.
Yeah.
You know? So do I want to live a...
So what does that mean as far you're thinking of pursuing a job or...
No, what's happening is the creative vistas are opening for me again.
Right.
Because the practical and financial stuff has never really been that interesting. Well, practical, but finance, money has never really been...
But now there is a goal for it, because you have an objective...
money's never really interesting. I find it really boring, but I love. I don't have a resistance to it. I love when I have some of it. It's great.
Yeah.
But I'm not driven to capitalize. You see what I mean? That's not my driving. That's not what fires me up in life. So I'm finding now that I have one daughter who's sort of over the line, as we say. She's on her way. She's 19.
The 19 one.
Now my 16-year-old, we're still getting her out of the nest. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
But now these creative vistas are starting to creep back in. What do I want to do now? Do we want to go deeper into this core urge to create and offer what we can from inspiration, truth, heart-driven, creative visions? So one thing that's resurfaced recently for me is my old hitchhiking project. You knew that at one point I wrote a book about...
Yeah, I read the book. Yeah, and it's. I wish we had the podcast right after I read it, but I wrote notes at the time. I don't remember. My memory is first to go. But yeah.
So, 5 years after that project where I hitchhiked across the U.S. in 2004. 5 years after that, I don't know if you knew that I went back again when I had a 1-year-old. Is that right? No, I had a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
And I flew back to the U.S. and we had a little ragtag film crew, and I did it again with the goal of making a film. So I hitchhiked again across the U.S.A.
So from where to where? From
Florida to Washington.
D.C. or state?
Washington State. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And with the film crew. So that project never got finished. And I just recently, you were asking, what are you doing today? This is just one little project that's, after 15 years of sitting on this footage, I went and pulled out these old dinosaur hard drives, the giant old hard drives.
That's right. Yeah. With a lot smaller capacity.
And we plugged it in. My friend Guy Harrison, the head sound production at the J, Guy Harrison. And he said, this will take 30 minutes to transfer this material onto these modern discs because they're so quick, these modern drives. Mm-hmm. He forgot about the old technology 15 years ago. Yeah. So we plugged it in and it was saying 6 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours. And we just managed to transfer all the footage, and then the hard drive just went boom.
Oh no!
But we got it.
The old one.
The old
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
But we got it.
Wow.
So I have this footage from 15 years ago, and I'm real excited to indulge in a project like that, beginning to edit that footage together of me hitchhiking across the U.S.A. 15 years ago and talking to Americans and entering their lives. And so that's an indulgent, personal, creative project that I would like to finish. And these kind of things are starting to come up again because I feel like you get to that point, you're always going to be a parent and you're always going to be, that's a forever role. But you can tell me more than I'm telling you. You're further along the path. There is a letting go, isn't it?
You're letting go
Of your kids.
Well, I mean, you have 2 girls, I have 2 boys. And yeah, with my boys, it's one is 25 and one is 40.
Wow.
Yes, I was a father since I was about 24-year-old or 25-year-old. So it's great that when they call, but it is interesting because they have their lives, they're busy, they have their priorities and whatever, and you do learn to let go because they're busy.
Yes.
I mean, I always, I remind myself, you live alone, you die alone. No, it is reality. It's not something to be sad about. I mean, we're all individuals. But
I'm not. Remember that? Monty Python. We're all individuals. I'm not. So, well, let me just turn the question around to you, because for me, I'm experiencing it's kind of a rebirth or a reawakening of these creative inspirations and this drive to get back to these projects that I, in a way, have put aside, for my foremost goal, which was raising these kids the best that I could and providing for them economically and in terms of the daily practicalities, putting a roof over their head, feeding them, getting them through school. So I'm finding now that job is nearly done.
Yeah.
Parenting never finishes. I realize this, but it does change, and you do find more time coming, more time to look at these things. And as you say, what do you want to do while you're here?
Yeah.
These are the questions I'm asking myself, and I have some pretty clear answers because I like you, I feel I know myself a bit now.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to think I've learned a little something about life by now. I hope.
I'm sure you've been around enough to, and I think at the older age, we learn that things are not instant, and a lot of our issues, I think, is patience. Sometimes you want to solve a problem, and you got to wait for things to take their toll or take their phases, and just stay back. The more you feed it energy, more it can, whatever. If you want, So
waiting for patience for Jay to actually make it out to Kin on time to do a podcast. See, you're good.
I know the trip is long, and it's but no, you wanted to come, but
it was worth it. I tell you,
I couldn't believe the day before you're like driving all over the place for hours and not having a good day. It's like, is it okay if we wait? I'll come tomorrow. It's like, yes, please.
Thank you. But I tell you, truthfully, arriving in this place, that you've found a home in and created a home in, it was worth it. I said to myself, about 30 seconds in, I was like, it's already worth the drive.
That's great.
So
no, you're always welcome, and I love to share, always share, whatever. So
it's wonderful.
Yeah.
But have you found that? Did you experience anything like that as your kids began to branch out? That rebirth of your own voice toward your own creations and dreams at all?
I think I'm sure you noticed this with your kids. Each one is so different. It's like you'd think somebody coming from a family to be similar.
Oh,
It's like,
so
and
true.
I look at my siblings, like we're all so different. So you know, it is interesting to see what each one's like
Needs are
um,
and
n- needs, and also what they're good at, what's important to them, um, and yeah, I mean it's definitely beautiful to watch. It makes me proud. It makes me, feel good that hey, I have not added like evil to the world, but I'm adding something good.
yeah, of course.
To me, that's the main thing. It's important that we leave something positive, and I'm very proud of them. They're feeling their way, in whatever way, and I help them. I understand the system or the institution is just puts pressure on everyone.
Yeah.
And I mean, I try to get them to know how to deal with life, and but in the same time, if there's I'm like the little buffer. If there's something, whatever,
Of
help them.
course.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, to me, helping your kids is give them a momentum that you probably would have appreciated if you got it when you were
Oh my
young.
goodness. Oh my goodness. That's right.
And the same with me. I mean, I loved my dad, but I don't remember spending a lot of time together. I don't remember
No, and that's the
talking and getting mentoring or anything.
same. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I didn't have a dad. But yeah, I see I see what you're saying, and
You'll always be family. I mean, that's they'll always be your daughters, your.
yeah. But I guess my question was for you having that opening, as they begin to branch out, did that give you what happened then? Did you
Well,
feel an empty nest syndrome, or did you be like, wow, now I can, let's go?
well, I've been here for quite a bit, and I didn't. My youngest wasn't of age, when I split up from my ex, and she went to the States right away, so I ended up being far from him. But with the technology, I guess it helped and all that. But in general, it's really after I retired that really made a lot of difference.
Aha. Aha.
I don't have to do a thing.
See, I don't have anything to retire from, so maybe that's why mine's come early.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I haven't worked for I don't know 2-3 years, and as you know, in the States, you contribute to Social Security
Yes.
until you get a certain age. So I'm at that age, so they're paying me, and my previous job, also paying me for pension. I'm an old guy,
Beautiful. Beautiful.
but it's fine. Yeah, it's great because now I'm not under the stress of it's what the America's external policies are, is that to put economic we've heard the book Economic Hitman.
Yes.
Confessions of Economic Hitman.
Yeah.
Apparently it's a guy who worked for the World Bank, but it's that consistent sort of putting pressure so countries don't be empowered and strong or whatever. It's more, and I feel it's being done to all of this population in of those countries, like even here in Australia. It's if you have a lot of money, let's get some of it. If you're not making any money, then you be part of the system. We'll help you here in Australia. But you got to go work. So that pressure, and it's amount of work that. How much time does it give for you to live you? If you're always chasing to make ends meet.
That's right. And so many people have never been able to wade into those waters of who they really are. And you see these grown men in pubs across the nation, that they're really little kids that never found themselves, never had a chance. Maybe they worked the whole way through because they always did what they were told. So I agree with you. I didn't mean to cut you off. But.
So it's really when now I don't have to chase for anything. I mean, it's not like I did okay in the States, but you know how it is. You get more money, you have a bigger house, you have a lot of things to pay for, all kind of things.
Of course.
It was like, $3,000 a month at the time in the States was like a normal month.
Of course.
So it was like, yeah, it's just crazy. So now so with that time, then you start, first it'll be a while where you feel like guilty or not doing something. But eventually, I mean, at some point I was like in a place where, okay, I'm not seeing anything digital. I'm not doing whatever. And here I am. I felt like it was more of wanting to connect with what is. You know, I just, you know, that speedy thing. And with time you realize, you know, things take its time. And also sometimes it's good that you didn't rush and do whatever, because you realize later on that, you know, better things that can be done or whatever. So it's basing yourself on living the moment to moment, really. And as long as you're content, you're not going to be like, is it, you know, I'm okay. I'm here. You know, if I'm there, I'm there. You know, it's like that whole thing of a need. You have your life is measured by, you have a day from morning to evening, and then you have a day from morning to evening. It's more, it doesn't matter. And it really, to me, it's like, you know.
It's great. It's like you stepped out of many matrices in a way. One of them is the clock time.
Yeah.
The other is the striving, the fear and desire systems that are superimposed upon us, you know.
That's right. And I'm hiding here. I mean, I stay like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, sometimes a month, and I don't go out at all. You know, I buy things in bulk, and I just live here. And I, you know, in the beginning, it was like, you know, when I first arrived in Australia, I was like, I was wanting to build a community. I wanted to, you know, I've been going to a lot of things. I haven't gone to anything, not a music, anything for maybe over a year.
Wow.
You know, I have music stuff, but people weren't like coming to jam, so that's okay. It's more, again, it's what am I serving? Is it me, like my ego wanting something, or learn to be content with what is and live within that what is, you know?
Do you miss the communing with other human beings?
It's different dynamics. I mean, you can be at a party and you can maybe not enjoying it.
Of course.
You know, you can be one-on-one and it's extremely enjoyable. Yet another person, it changes the dynamics. Like sometimes it's like, you know, I'll be having a visitor, and it's like I don't want to have another visitor because it's just I want that energy.
Diluting.
Yeah, it's just it. I mean, it's not like it's worse. It's just different. It's a different dynamics.
That's right.
So it's yeah, with that in mind.
So maybe you most rewarded and comfortable in one-on-one, whether it's you here with nature or you with another individual.
No, I mean I can have more than one person, but again, it depends on the dynamic. If it's having like a gathering where you're enjoying some energy, that's great.
Do you find you're less prone to compromise quality as you get older? What I mean by that is, you're talking about the changing dynamics if you start adding other ingredients, like other energies, more people, for example, and maybe, it's a different dynamic. If you sense a compromise in the quality of the sharing, will you tend now to not engage that as much as prior phases of your life? Will you sort of say, I think it's time for me to go back to my forest now, or so I just wonder if you're less prone to compromise as you get.
I do enjoy. I mean, it's not. I'm enjoying being by myself.
But you're not a hermit.
I am a hermit. I mean, I heard so much about a hermit. I never understood what that is until I'm here, and I don't want to leave at all. You know, it's like I'm loving it. I don't want to leave. But anytime I go shopping, even though I resent going shopping, I end up enjoying everybody's.
You are a hermit. See, you resent. I gotta go deal with this. There's humans.
Until I go. But once I'm there, because like I gotta drive and get there. Well, once I'm there, it's like I can spend quite a few hours before I head back, and I enjoy dealing with everybody.
Yeah,
because it's enjoyment to be, to talk to the person, wish them well, and feeling good.
Yes.
And, all that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's wonderful that you found the sustenance and the spiritually nutritive aspects of living on your own. That's a big deal, to learn to be alone.
So yeah, there was a phrase that I thought was really nice that you said in the book. A dream in motion is a powerful dream.
Is a dream a powerful force?
Or maybe a powerful force.
But yeah.
A dream in motion is a powerful force? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I remember the line. I haven't read my own book for a long time for obvious reasons. but I do remember that line. And it is.
Yeah, it's sort of like, oh, that's nice. Dream in motion. Of course, we were talking about retirement before that and all that. But it's life is in motion in a way. It's
a dream in motion. If it's your own, if it's really coming from your own core. This is the trick. If you've taken on groupthink, or if you've taken on that which you've been programmed to dream, then it's not so interesting.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. You spoke about those early years of your life where you listened and you were reticent to criticize and taking on all this stuff. There comes at some point when you're like, okay, now I know who I am. I got a better idea of what my core values are, what my dreams are, my inspirations, what inspires me, what strikes me as deeper truth. Then I think the job is to come out of that truth. And coming back to Nietzsche, I think he popped up earlier, maybe in a subject that I didn't express so well at the time, but Nietzsche, I remember, described the enlightened state as a wheel rolling out of its own center, and I really love that. And if your dream is a wheel rolling out of your own center, that's the powerful force I'm referring to, because that means you've gone within. You've realized what's there, and now you're going to grow your crop from that soil. That's an interesting crop. It doesn't matter what it is. That's your dream.
Yeah.
If it's yours, and it's come from love and a desire for truth, not a desire for, but a discovery, a revelation, and you're not, and provided you're not inflicting suffering on others with your dream, and I don't think you do. When you know who you are, not in a personal egoic sense, but when you know who you are beyond personal and ego, and you're able to roll out of that center, you can trust it.
Sure.
I'm sure of it.
There's the big belief that there is a natural right and wrong that we know, that it's embedded in us, and I guess if you do know yourself, then it should be natural.
Yeah, don't harm others.
There was interesting. Actually, I was I was reading. No, actually, it was. There's this guy in the States, Judge Napolitano. He's really great. He has this YouTube, and he brings amazing guests. And so, if you want to know the source of things happening versus the media, it's really good. And I usually don't watch him for him. It's because of the guests. I see what guests he has, and that's what I listen to. And it's like, oh, this guy, I'm going to know about the military thing happening there, or and a lot of times he's a judge. So a lot of times it's like, the constitutional issues that come up and all that. And then he was invited to talk in Italy. He goes visits Italy. He's, I guess, he's got ancestry there. And they invited him to talk. And he was talking about freedom of speech, was it? And he was saying that it took them about 10 days to put the freedom of speech versus freedom of speech, because the is makes it's the one that's understood, that it's already there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like we're making it a right.
I see what you mean.
It's already
Established.
there.
Pre-established.
It's before the Constitution, before anything. That's what we have. So there's certain things that are, that's, I think,
inalienable rights is, I think, how that was put.
with also with laws, with a lot of laws, which, what do you think of the world, man?
Well, the world's a mess.
Yeah.
The world's a mess. So what do we do about it is the question. And you are providing answers, Tend your own garden.
That's right.
This is really it. You don't need to tend your neighbor's garden. You can help your neighbor. You can assist your neighbor.
Yeah.
Tend your own garden. If each of us.
I was reading this as countries when you were saying that.
What's that?
I was reading it as you're saying, like your own house as in your own country. Neighbors as in neighboring countries. Because it seems like, we're creating a lot of enemies. And, why? It's like we have such a small, time in the world. Why don't we just help each other?
Yeah.
Partner or...
Yeah. Imagine what a country like Australia could be with this young history.
Yeah.
I mean, massive effort would have to be, massive, real, honest effort to not bullshit political propaganda effort toward healing. I will say healing, the indigenous history, the history of our destroying and the destruction that we committed with indigenous Australia.
Yeah.
But looking at the modern Australia, what a young country with so many possibilities. Imagine the heaven on earth that this country could be if we focused on this country rather than what's over here,
These, from what I heard, Australia used to be, and maybe still is, very rich. That's why the benefits and the social stuff was, there all over the place. And it's, how is it becoming so hard and so tight and
it is tight. It is tight.
It's changed quite a bit.
A lot since I first arrived as a hitchhiker. Trying to get away from empire, really. It's quite comical, that I came across the world to a place that was British in design, American in desire. And but I'd already been arrested for protesting the first Gulf War, the popular one.
I saw that, Iraq.
And I came to Australia, and I arrived to what I thought was a very different place. There was a lot of motifs in motion here that were very different. But since that time, I agree with you, this country's changed so rapidly. And the increase in regulation and the changes. Don't you think the changes have been enormous in the last few decades?
I wonder if it's like the understanding is the more policies you put, more laws and changes, that means we're better. We're going forward. I wonder if that's the thinking. Just pile and pile, make a huge list of the don'ts and the this and changes or whatever. Yeah, what makes people? I guess it's they have lobbyists here as well, or it's more of a connections, personal.
I don't really know that much. Having lived here a long time, I don't know that much to speak with any depth about the Australian political system.
Yeah, me neither.
But one thing I love Frank Zappa's definition of politics. What does he say? He says politics is the entertainment sector of the military-industrial complex.
That's right. I read that recently.
I love this one, but look, just driving down the road, my God, I came back from Indonesia, and I was, I think, one day late on my registration, and a few days later I got a letter in the mail, $1,000, because you were 24 hours late with your registration. I was like, how'd you know that? And a camera on your way back from the airport spotted you, and so we send this to you in the mail. And yet, So it's very interesting when you have a country that doesn't have this history of rights, you know, and the Bill of Rights. Like
That's right. Yeah.
And you've got a laid back, traditionally laid back population spread out across this massive continent of Australia. You know, easygoing, no worries, mate, kind of thing.
That's
So
right.
they're easily taken advantage of with these new
Absolutely.
laws, and they're easier controlled. And it's interesting because I, through a crazy story of Ancestry.com, the DNA test and everything, I found out it's a long story that we don't have to go into, but I found out who my real father was. I found out I had a brother and a sister, and
Really?
years ago flew over there, and I was on the way
Over where?
over to Boston,
All right.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And after a wonderful meeting of, you know, this side of my family I'd never known, and a wonderful time, we were on the way to the airport. And
How was that?
that experience?
Seeing your dad.
Oh, it was
first
tremendous.
time.
It's an amazing
How
story.
How did he see you?
But before I get on that tangent, because you and I we're like walking tangents. But before I do, let me keep this train of thought. So we're on the way to the airport. So I'm ready to fly back to Australia, and I had this rental car. It had this marvelous, this wonderful trip, in amazing experiences in the U.S.A. It was really fun, and coupled with this family discovery and everything else, with my daughters and my girlfriend at the time, it was tremendous. So we're on the way to the airport. And I was speeding, ridiculously speeding to get to the airport. You're a bit nervous. And I passed a Boston policeman. And I went, oh, man, I made it the whole way, 6 weeks or whatever it was, in the U.S.A., no tickets, no accidents. And on the way to the airport, they got me. So I turned to my new brother, my brand new brother, you know, my little brother that I had discovered. And I said to him, I said, oh, Nick, I said, they got me. I said, damn it. I looked at the speedometer. And he looked back at the back of the car at the policeman, and he said, nope, didn't get you. He said, you're all good? And I said, no, he definitely got me. I said, I was double the speed limit or whatever. He said, no, he said, in Boston, the people of Boston voted that if a policeman wishes to issue a ticket, he has to pull you over and write it. He said, I said, you mean you don't just get these things in the mail? He said, no, we voted against it. We stood up against that. I said, wow.
Yeah.
I said, can we do that? Can we do that in Queensland? You know, but isn't that interesting? You know, because
it is interesting. I mean,
it's
we were treated like little kids, and it's offensive, to be honest.
It is.
You know, when you're telling, you know, the nicotine, you'd have to get a prescription for. That's a bill coming out.
Yeah.
And Tucker Carlson was making fun of that.
Yeah.
And I was like laughing. I was like, it's like I'm over 60. You're going to tell me what I shouldn't do with my body?
Incredible, yeah.
It is just disrespectful. I mean, that's the people who do those rules or laws are like little kids that are having fun with their laws.
That's right.
You know, it's not really how are you building a society? You know, with humanity. It's not a math problem here. There's humanity involved.
The nanny state thing, and it's a worry, isn't it?
It's terrible. I mean, thank God I have that's why I have a private property sign.
Oh, look, you've
like, leave me alone.
Beautiful.
You know?
Wonderful. You got to do that sometimes.
Yeah, it's for those people who take advantage of other people. I mean, you do notice like a lot of Aussies just want to go by okay, we're told this, let's do it.
Yeah.
It's like you don't want to take advantage of that.
Do the right thing, mate, right? do the right thing. We heard that with COVID. But, you know, I saw a post by a musician called Lauren, a fine singer-songwriter from the Byron Bay hinterland area, Northern Rivers. And he put up a post on Facebook, and it was a photo that he'd been sent by the New South Wales Transportation Department. And he said, oh, this was what did he say? Is $1,100. This photograph cost me $1,100. Thank you, New South Wales Transportation. He was very humble, more humble than I would be. Basically, he was in the passenger seat with a mobile phone on his lap. And I'm looking at this going, you're in the passenger seat. And then I looked closer. And what he'd done is he had just for a moment taken off the upper strap of his seatbelt and just put his arm over it. You see what I mean? So he temporarily took and just maybe might wanted to reach for something, who knows, some food or something. Yeah. And just in that moment, the camera snapped a photo of him without the upper strap of his
Yeah.
seatbelt on. $1,100. Now, come on.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
$1,100, really?
Economic hitman. That's what we're building.
Yeah.
An empire of economic hitmen.
So we keep doing our best, you know, and for some people, their best is going to be to fight those fights, to go in there.
Yeah.
That's not my job. I'm not.
That's right.
Politics is not my thing, but for somebody, that's going to be rolling out of that person's own center is going to be going into that field and trying to promote good and to promote freedom. You know, I'm a musician. I'm a songwriter. I like community. I like family and proactivity within your surrounds. And there's a lot of forces pressing in. So it's admirable that you've chosen something different.
Yeah, it's hard it's hard seeing younger kids now and what they have to deal with, dealing with all this stuff. You know?
Well, it comes right into their hands, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Bang, 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 bang. Very tricky. Very tricky.
Yeah, I remember when I used to visit Australia since like 84, 85, because my brother and sister moved here to Sydney, actually.
84, 85, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's been a while. And yeah, I noticed very clearly the smiles and all that. It's just got fading and fading.
It's a big one.
Fading.
This is a big one.
And
it's a huge one.
It's not the same.
What are we here for, you know? And the thing that I noticed moving back from Asia, you may relate to this with your international experience in your life, but the biggest thing that I noticed after 3.5 years of living in Indonesia, which to me is the true land of smiles in my experience. They used to call, way back in the 80s and 90s, they dubbed Thailand the land of smiles. I never saw it that way, even in the early 90s, 92. I went across Papua New Guinea and Indonesia and Malaysia, Thailand, and into India, an 8-month trip. Incredible. Indonesia was it by a mile, the happiest place and the happiest people I'd ever encountered. Compared to Thailand, a completely different thing. So to me, that was the land of smiles. And having lived there 3.5 years, the joy, the daily joy that I experienced in those 3.5 years was just...
That's when we had the go away farewell party.
That's right. So this is going back, 14 years ago or whatever. But joy, when I returned here, was the thing that I found most missing. That's what came to me. What's missing? Joy. Daily living joy. That's what's missing here. It's not material comfort. It's not natural beauty. Yeah. It's not material wealth. It's not opportunity for career. It's not fundamental freedom of expression for women and men, and so many things that a country like Australia offers in such incredible abundance. But joy, that was the big one. So when I find joy here, like the other night at Mr. Drifter with the South Americans, I put up a couple posts on that experience. These beautiful South Americans bringing their music and dance and singing, celebrative culture, bringing that to Noosa. Wow, joy. So...
But that is an excellent question. It's like, shouldn't that, what is it about if we're not bringing joy? And then if the families are being dismantled by everybody it's not about family, a man and a woman getting together and having children. Where are we moving to? It's getting very weird.
Grim. Why does the flower bloom, To make money. You know what I mean? The flower blooms because it's a flower. And it's beautiful. Yeah. It's joyous. And, you can try to reduce that however you want with, scientific analysis, scientism, reductionism. But the essences of love and joy, creativity, inspiration, community, family, presence, shared presence, whether it's you with the trees and the nature here, or you and I here right now. To me, these are the motifs and essences that I'm interested in the older I get. I know what I've committed to. I've committed to humanity, nature, family, community, friendship, attempting to offer what I can while I'm here, and that's my priority. So it's not politics, or I'm going to save the world or help the world, or I don't think I'm anyone special. I know I'm not, and I don't need to love myself.
Well, I think, hopefully at some point politics would be about presenting people, making people happy, or supposed to represent people. And your point is, why are we doing this for if there's no joy? It's like that is important to hear.
Yeah, are we just?
Are we just a workforce?
We're being
take the cog out, throw it away, put the cog in.
We're being turned into machines.
Yeah,
and it's happening, and it's happening quickly, and with the AI, and anyone who can't see that has lost their sight. And it's happening so quickly, and these are the questions that begin to be raised in the 20th century. Are we going to revoke our humanity to the machines? That's the question. And so far the answer is yes, for the most people. Yes, we are. But I'm not going to. I will not. I never will. I'm very clear on that. If I go shopping, it's cash 99% of the time. I'm very awkward. I still don't know my password with the card. I get into trouble all the time if I've run out of cash. I can't buy anything. I don't know the password. But if it's under $100, I can still use the card in desperation. But for me, it's cash. It's people. I always choose the human being. Even if there's a line, I'll choose the human being in a market exchange. I don't feel like I'm making a political statement or I'm better than anyone. I want to experience humanity. I don't want to just deal with machines. I don't want a robot lover. I don't want robot friends. I want Yusuf, not the clone of Yusuf. I don't want.
I'll try to act accordingly.
I don't want machine music. I'd say that my open-mindedness has even curtailed itself a little bit, because I'm turning away from machine-produced music, because so much of today, it's all machines. Even the voices are altered by machines to the point that they're not even really fully human voices. So if you've got now we've got AI, we've got AI-produced movies, music. So at what point?
Look-alike people talking with the same voice as those people. It's like at some point they can, just show you a video clip. Look what you did, blah, 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 blah. And you can't tell them, well, I wasn't there. It's like, it can be complete fake world that we pay for.
But it's good. I think you and I are lucky, we've lived. It's got, like you said, it's hard for these kids today because they're raised with it, indoctrinated, so to speak, from the early days. But I think we're lucky because we've experienced something different, and we know the difference. And that's a privilege. It's a blessing, isn't it?
It is, of course. Yeah.
So I've made my choices. It doesn't mean I'm closed-minded, but it means that I know the direction I want to navigate my little craft from here.
Well, it's the spark you have. I've put a comment here, tall poppy syndrome, and I don't know what that means or anything.
Wow, that's amazing.
Well, yeah, what was it?
This is I'm amazed that you've been in Australia that long and haven't, because I'm sure you've encountered it if you haven't put a label on it. Tall poppy syndrome. This means that the tall puppy gets cut off because it stands out as different.
Oh, right.
So I think it came from sort of
the culture as far as the kids in school, whatever, if they come out.
Social culture, but it would be. I think it would certainly come into politics. And look at me shifting around with the coffee. I'm bouncing around, aren't I? I could get some exercise here.
It's all good.
I think it would be in every aspect. Certainly in artistic communities. So basically, the tall puppy gets cut off because I found this in the pubs when I first arrived in Australia. There's this agreement. There's certain things we talk about, certain behaviors, and if you come in as an individual or a little bit colorful, like guy from Egypt, hey, I got something to share about my culture. No, get back down.
I see.
Or if you say, hey, I want to rise in the music scene with a really innovative, interesting, creative band, to be like, who do you think you are, mate?
I see.
Who do you think you are? Get back to work.
Interesting.
Very different from the U.S.A. That celebrates.
My son is having a big problem. I think it's probably related to that.
Oh my God!
He went to Tassie, and he graduated from microbiology, and he joined the Tassie Uni there. And it's like, Dad, what is going on? It's like I can't do anything. They're talking, I tell them that I even have credit for this subject. I wouldn't want to, it's like everything is like a roadblock. And he's like, compared to other kids, he wants to explore this, he wants to do that. He's got just imagining. I don't know if you met him, Matthew plays guitar.
I think I have met him maybe once or twice, but
he can be all over the place because that's what he wants. He feels like that's part of what he wants to do, to discover.
Mm-hmm.
And but he felt like it was very different than the States. Yeah, like you said, it's like,
look,
stop.
I started.
Like, nope, stay in your place. And I heard Tassie is also more than the rest of Australia in a way, very pecking order.
Interesting.
So I could be wrong.
I believe it or I haven't had Tasmanian experience, believe it or not. It's crazy, but I can say that as a budding musician, just getting started in California, my friends and the community got around me. They went, "Go for this, do this thing." Oh, really? You sure? No, do this thing. We believe in you. We believe in you. And then when I took a step forward, they lifted me up. And then I took another step forward, and they lifted me up again. Go, we got you all the way. We love you. And I went, whoa! Pretty soon you're up top, crowd surfing. I found a very different reception when I first arrived in Australia.
Yeah, I wonder if it's related to also politics to the U.S. You being American. At some point, I think Bush made everybody hate. I mean, I left because of. I think you said that in the book that you left because of Bush or something because of that war.
Look, I think the Australians don't. I'm talking about the masses Australians. We're not talking about educated, cultured people of Melbourne who are really open-minded.
Like inside the culture, you mean?
Yeah, but if you go hitchhiking like I have across Australia, then the masses they don't love Americans. So these Americans that think, oh, the Aussies love us, no, they don't. They don't at all. I can tell you, I barely got out of some places alive.
All right.
So I think you're right. I think because of the geopolitical situation of these presidents like Bush and what the Americans have done around the world, and the Hollywood people are sick of it, always in their living rooms. It's a love-hate thing. But I don't think the Americans are loved like they might have imagined they are on a day-to-day basis in Australia. But where were we going with this? We were heading somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I'll go where it goes. That reminded me when I saw. I was in a small community, suburb of Egypt, Cairo, like a small little town.
Oh, Tall Poppy, that's where we were.
That's right.
But yeah, go ahead.
I grew up in a place called Mahdi, which is Mahdi, in English or whatever. It's a little town. It's got a lot of expats, a lot of diplomats, whatever. They go stay in that little town. And, my dad being in Cairo University or whatever, we've lived in the same house forever. We had membership to this country club. And I remember seeing this American, it was an American woman, she was talking to a friend of hers. And the way she was talking, the freedom, I just admired that. There is something about Americans that's very beautiful from that aspect of things. That being able to talk, they talk their brain. They're not like, they don't hold their cards back and, whatever. I've noticed this here quite a bit. But I can see that, yes, if you have somebody who's got all the freedom in the world, but they have a poor upbringing, it can be very ugly as well.
Of course.
So the freedom is beautiful at its start, but it comes with, I guess, it needs to come with a proper education, so people, you know, would handle themselves right. Because again, freedom with that proper upbringing can be just belligerent, can be whatever. I'm free, I say what I want. It's like hate speech. I mean, nowadays if you don't like something, it's a right away personal, whatever. It's interesting.
It is interesting.
But there is definitely a place for the States. I mean, I think the States have done so much damage around the world, so much damage.
That's the empire aspect, and the political.
You know what the Chinese called it recently? The U.S. is the empire of lies.
Fair enough.
Yeah, which is true. I mean, they've there's so many twists and yeah. But I think it has to do also with, in general, I sense that Western civilization, in a way, if they can't relate to a culture, they don't know much about the culture, and because they're Western modern civilization, so they're standing on a high ground kind of thing.
Of course.
Then it can go from bad to really, really bad as far as how, because I mean, if like we were talking earlier, if I'm not familiar with the place, I go there, I'm humble, I'm trying to understand whatever. But that's not the attitude. If you think you know a lot more than those people, then it's up to them to behave properly and follow the proper etiquette.
That's right.
So I can respect them and talk to them.
Yeah,
It's not me who needs to understand the culture and talk with the respect according to their culture. Doesn't matter if I'm there or whatever, they change to accommodate me and have the proper respect, which is interesting. Where we've come to a point, and the whole world have come to a point now where laws, a lot of universities all around the world, engineers all around the world. So there was a point where that meant so much that some people can talk from a high ground, like with dealing with Aboriginals. There's things that run, whatever they're not really civilized or whatever. Where now you have like South Africa, they went to talk to the International Court of Justice and put a case to help with the Palestinian issue. In the past, if nobody had that understanding that you need to have respect to basic humanity, they would have been able to understand, okay, I need to do the right paperwork and fill those forms and and follow the road that the West demands for them to take you seriously, that you have to act their way. I don't know if you're following what I'm saying.
Well, it's a positive.
Sorry?
It's a positive, isn't it, that you're finding with the South African example?
Oh, yeah.
It's a
I
great
think it's the world. They can't. What I'm saying is that Western society, they can't get away with it anymore because we've learned the language.
Yeah.
All those China, it's like enemy. It's like, is it because we don't understand how they do their democracy or they do their whatever? Who knows? I mean, what is the issues? I mean, those are enemies. Those are enemies. They don't tell you why.
But I would beg to differ in that I think they're still getting away with it. Look at Palestine,
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, have you lost friends here? I have.
In Palestine.
Oh no, not from death, but from my position held.
Oh yeah. I have. It was really amazing. It was one person who I've never met her in person. We're friends. She lives in Sydney. And in the beginning, I posted something about bombing hospitals and all that. It's like, well, 7th of October, they did. It's like, they're bombing hospitals. Are you making reasons?
Yeah.
They're killing so many kids.
Yeah,
Are you like, 7th October? But to find out, it came out, so many people, some people broke it down and analyzed what happened. And then later on, the Harat, which is an Israeli paper, they even said it. They admitted that the Hannibal directive has been used.
That's right.
Which is kill your own.
That's right.
In order to just not take a chance.
That's right.
So more than half the people who were killed on October 7th were killed by IDF.
Yes. Yeah.
Until today, people are not getting it. They say, "Oh, did you really been there or whatever?" It's like, go there, check. People who go by emotion and by cheerleading are just lost.
Or false propaganda, and this is why they still are getting away with it, because look at what's happening. But your example in South Africa is a positive one, and this is what I say about all these things. It's like, where do we want to put our focus? The ancient Chinese, the yin and yang symbol, it's always given me so much, within the heart of darkness you find a speck of light. Within the broad wonderful light you find a bit of darkness. Where do you want to focus? For me, I want to, if I'm not in that basking in the light of your beautiful surrounds here in the forests of Kinkin with you right now.
Stop it now.
Hey, come on, right? Look where we are. So if I'm not basking in this, if I'm swimming through the horrors that we're speaking of in modern society and the world condition, find the light. Where's the light? Well, that South African example you gave me. Where was the light on Sunday night in Noosa? Well, it was with those South Americans celebrating and bringing their beautiful, colorful cultures to our town, open for everyone to join. To me, that was the light, So there's, as much as we speak about the old Australia and the changes that have come with legislation, and the overregulation and the nanny state, and as much as there's oppression against everything I'm trying to do with live music, and do I want to focus on that? No way. Keep building those fires and keep enjoying those little fires. A conversation like this, nobody messed with us. I don't think anybody took a photo. Maybe there might be a drone up there somewhere, but if that's how they get off, let them do it. So there's a lot of positive changes today in the Sunshine Coast as well. It's not all negative.
Yeah. What's happening in the Sunshine Coast?
Well, I'm enjoying this new multiculturalism pouring into Noosa, but we just need to celebrate it like we did the other night. And there's an influx.
Is that like an organization that deals with multiculturalization?
People are coming. People have arrived here. It's a new
people showing up.
It's a new population here, and people haven't realized that. It's not the old boy. All the old boy systems are crumbling. The surf clubs, sorry, but they're crumbling. And the bowling clubs and the RSLs and the front bars, those old school white Australia traditions. I'm sorry to say, I know a lot of people like to mythologize that, but those things are crumbling because they haven't grown with the changes.
I see what you mean.
And I appreciate some of the changes that are coming, and there's hope with the youth too. There's the talent and the open-heartedness in a lot of our youth. Our local youth is just humbling and beautiful, and for me, a total privilege and blessing to be part of. These young people still giving me the time of day when I go out and run an event, and the respect that they offer me, I'm like, really? You respect me? And the inclusivity, is that a word? I think it is. Yes. Thank you.
I don't know. I'm Egyptian.
I've
used it. Being inclusive.
Yeah. So I think, as we get close to the end of our filmed chat here, I think that's something I want to put forward, is that there's always a positive take. There really is. There's always a growing point, a learning point, and an opportunity to enhance these rather than focus on the decimation and the annihilation and the horror.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh no, I didn't feel that you were taking that direction. You're a living example of these things, Yusuf.
So for those who are around, who come to visit Sunshine Coast and all that, what do you want to suggest things that they can go to?
Sure.
and
Well, I mean, the
experience?
coast has always offered its natural beauty, and we still have so much of that. And thank God they preserved the national park. You know, at one point, previous decades, you know, they wanted to put a highway through there, and thank God for those people who stood against that and preserved the national park. So we still have all this beauty, the mountains and the rivers and the beautiful hinterland and all the things, the beaches. We have all those things, but I think culturally we're really, really struggling here because of the cultural nullifying, the life nullifying energies that are still controlling everything we do and everything we try to create. They want to smash it, and I think that's horrific. But I'm so happy there's
And
people.
you mean it from an economic point of view, or you mean it from?
Well, whatever their reasons are, anything we try to create with live music, culture, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Where are we without music? I think we learned where we are without music and the arts. We learned during those COVID years. We learned that the arts are not non-essential services. They're absolutely primary essential services to the human spirit and to human sustainability. Look at the suicide rates. Look at the mental health rates and the results.
Well, from people point of view, I agree with you 100%. I think from the institution point of view, I mean, I see like I don't know, that Caloundra festival or whatever. It's just not the same as what people put together as a group, as a tribe or whatever. It's just different feeling, different. Because there is money. The institution sees that music can mean money, so then
Of course.
and it's sort of right away, it can push a certain way.
Well, at the moment, it's pushing downward, but there's upward pushing forces.
So you're saying right now the forces are pushing just music in general?
Well, look at these major festivals closing down. Look at
I saw what was in Caloundra is going to be announced, or I thought I may have seen something about Caloundra.
I thought, are they revitalizing it? Because I heard it was all over.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's finished.
All right.
Done. Another one bites the dust.
Okay.
But in our local situation, for local people who listen to your podcast, for me, the focus now for Noosa, I'm talking about the Noosa Shire.
Yeah.
For me, it's all about the junction. Why? Because Hastings Street, they took it. They took it decades ago, and the locals have left. They made that decision. The new people moved in with lots of money and said, no, we want it quiet here. None of that, none of that, none of that.
Right.
So now Hastings Street is ginormously expensive. It's exclusive tourism, and the locals have sort of left, and that's sad. But so we can't really have a true local community, thriving local community, artistic, creative, inspirational culture, in my opinion, on Hastings Street. They won't. It's prohibited. The river never had a chance. We're trying to die. Please let us die and stay dead. I sound outspoken, but this is my feeling on it. And except you got guys, wonderful people like Oz Baildon, putting on Come Together festivals. So you have these isolated events that are terrific, and I really believe in them.
Like Piranha?
Weekend festivals. And
oh, right.
look, Brett Gadeen,
Brett,
wonderful.
You did a wonderful one.
Beautiful. There's moments of illumination and great offerings by individuals who commit to creating these events. But for me, as a region, right through the year, I'm talking about the 7 days of the week, the junction is pushing upward as a community, as a business community, and as an artistic community. It's trying to find itself, and they're squashing it again. No. If
did they give a reason or
noise pollution?
Oh, geez.
The revelers, bleeding out into the suburbs and wreaking havoc and all this sort of nonsense, So, to me, if they take the junction, then we got it's all over. Really, for me, for Noosa, because what have we got left for the people? Where can you go? Where can you go after 8 p.m., to get a bite to eat or to have a drink or to have some live music, to have some people experiencing joy together. You can still do that at the junction, but it's like, I like to use old-fashioned Star Wars metaphors. You remember the scene in the old Star Wars movie when they're in the trash compactor? They're on the Death Star, and the walls of the trash compactor are closing in on our Jedi friends. That's how I see things. But those Jedis are trying strongly to push those doors open wider, and that's some of the business owners that are trying to offer live music events and community events, and so I'm putting my support behind people who are trying to create and sustain something more than just commerce-driven enterprise.
Yeah. Well, the sun looks like it's hitting us now. It's maybe the best time to say...
You're getting a suntan.
Thank you so much. Oh yeah,
Not that you needed
I
one.
go to the sun in the winter all the time. You find me darker in the winter than summer.
How do you go through winter out here?
Layers.
Like life, right?
Like life. You just layer in, layer out.
Yeah.
It's all good. Well, Jay, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming and visiting and coming all the way here, and it's really nice to talk to you.
It's great to
again.
reconnect.
It's been a while.
Looking forward to sharing a meal.